of the key things that was very obvious as I built my career as a photographer was that a lot of photographers have not gotten into the phase of scaling the practice. I realized that most of my peers were, at that time, leaving photography as a personal career. So, Bayo Omoboriowo, a person. And for me, my career had a very sharp movement to the point where I became the president photographer. And I saw that fast progression. I started asking myself, what is next? And I realized that I actually could build a whole body, a whole institution that embodies everything I am. Also, I realized that for me, nobody succeeds in isolation. Everything that makes sense out of life is built as a collective. And that made me realize that I would rather want to build a team of creatives coming together, bring creatives coming together into one space, and then make greatness out of that. And that's what morphed into building a storytelling company where preserving legacy of entities and individuals remain the primary objective. However we choose to do it, we want to tell stories, we want to preserve legacy, and that's what led us into JT Agency.
One of the things he said that I held on to was when he said he wanted to build the best storytelling agency in Africa. And even though that sounds like a normal thing to say, but what most people would say is in Nigeria.
I think the very first time I met Mr. Bayo, he was speaking about what he wanted JT to be. From that very first day, he was already speaking about how he wanted creatives to be able to make more money beyond just their craft.
What made me believe in his vision for this company is the fact that he wants to replicate himself in the whole company. Imagine having 15 Mr. Bayos in a company. You can imagine how crazy that would be.
First three people represented hope, represented faith, represented trust, represented we believe in this vision and we want to be part of it. And they were the engines of what JT Agency is now, for the fact that it was just an idea in my head and some people came on board to believe in it.
When I spoke to Bayo, I just felt that sense of someone that wants to do something different from the norm. He sold the vision of let's build something different, let's do something new, let's do something unheard of, and I think he sold me at that point.
To be honest, I'd hung my boots from 9 to 5. But after listening to Bayo, seeing his vision, what he wanted to achieve, and the kind of company that he wanted to build, I was moved to be a part of that vision.
A lot of people have been beaten by disappointment. They've worked in a place where there have been a lot of promises. We will do this. We are here to change the world. We are building an agency that is going to change. And then what I ordered versus what I got is not the same. They meet a lot of betrayal. So that conviction, that ability to be able to convince them that this is different. We are going to do things differently. We're going to build an organization that you'll be proud of. We're going to build an organization that is going to grow. We are building an organization where you'll not be taken for granted, where we'll deliver results, and you'll be proud to say you were part of that organization.
Right? We had this small, I don't want to call it a cubicle, but it was literally the size of a small container.
The early days were quite interesting, but it brought out the very best in us.
We were just 4 of us, myself, Ezra, Belumi, and Chris.
Everybody was in each other's space. We would get work done and we get excited, and then when we do good work or we close out any projects, Mr. Bayo will usually take us out, will spoil us.
We were about 12 to 15 inside the train, and it was a little bit clumsy because you can't move from one place to another without eating somebody. So you're not eating somebody, you're eating someone's equipment or something like that. It came with its own advantage as well because it gave us this oneness, and it just gave us that sense of whatever you're doing, you're not doing it alone.
I remember my first time coming and I entered into this black box and everybody was just there. It was a close-knit, family kind of setting, right? small team, nimble, and everything about everything. About the briefs, about situations, about challenges, they're all discussed in the open there. That was the kind of JT that I came into, and before it became all of this.
We started as a 3-man, 5-3, then we moved to 8-man team working in a trained coach. And then from there we grew to having to move into a 3-container space. And then it became so, we were so choked that now we are in a band that is a 500-seater capacity space, big enough for everybody to work from. It simply represents growth.
Some of the things we struggled with was structure. There was nobody keeping tabs on anybody. It was the founder, Bayo, and then the staff. There was no in-between. There was no COO. There was no HR. There was no admin. We were just filling up all those positions, when it was needed.
When I came into JT, the structure wasn't very defined. So that was also a challenge for me, and it was something that I took on to ensure that, there were proper structures and processes, and yeah, we've evolved.
The highlight project for us was the West African Economic Summit. But for me, it wasn't. It was my first ever project with JT, and it was a TED Talk in Katagum. We went and we built an X in the middle of nowhere.
I would say national honors, because just a team of less than 10 and we were able to pull it off.
I joined, and then I think 2 months later I was in Bauchi. I'd never been there before, and then we had to do a TEDx. My goodness, I felt so proud during the actual event, seeing all we had done, because we curated the event, and we basically handled the event, and it was so fulfilling and a thing of pride that we did that.
Echoes of Bauchi was quite interesting. It was quite challenging. It stretched the team. The client was very, very intentional with what he wanted, and we had to go over and over and over again. I think it was so beautiful to see what could come out of collaboration between the clients and the organization.
As business director, there are certain kinds of brands you want to work with, right? NMPC is one of those brands. So coming in here and seeing that NMPC was already an account that we worked on, already told me about the potential and the size of JT.
YS 2025. It's our biggest event so far.
For me, seeing YS was a turning point for me, and obviously grew my interest and curiosity in wanting to join JT. Yes.
West Africa Economic Summit was huge. We had such a short time to deliver, and it came out to become one of the best events or projects that Nigeria had ever delivered, with huge accolade from the president. Imagine a standing ovation because of the successful events that JT agency curated.
Who really matter to Bayo, and every time he's trying to seek the best out of people. He's always trying to bring the best out of us, and that's embedded in our culture, that we don't leave anybody behind.
Mr. Bayo has been someone that right from time, from when I joined, one thing I noticed about him is that he's very big on welfare.
I think what has kept me is the care, especially from the CEO and even like my colleagues as well.
Family is one word I would describe JT. Sometimes I say we love on ourselves too much sometimes, that let's not lose sight of why we're here.
It's very important who you have at the top, who you have as the head of an organization or leading an organization, directly or indirectly, intentionally or unintentionally influences the culture of that organization.
If there's anything God has done for this organization, is that God has given us men who have sacrificed even when it didn't make sense, men who are sacrificing now when it is making sense, and men who are willing to sacrifice when it will make an unconventional sense.
Right now, I think JT is big in its own way, but I see it's going bigger, like way, way bigger.
I don't think the world has seen what JT is going to become and where we're headed. I won't tell you where, but I would say watch out.
Where we're going, for me, I feel is dependent on the amount of the amount of imagination that God allows Bayo to see at every point in time.
So we all know Netflix, right? Bayo is obsessed with Netflix. Not Netflix to watch movie, the organization itself. So for us, we also use some of the learnings as our own model, because we also plan our goal, our vision, our objective is to also be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, storytelling agency in Africa.
We don't think normal. We don't do normal. We're so brilliant because we are the standard. We redefine the norm. We remake, we redo, and we set a standard for the world to follow. People thought I disappeared, but I reinvented.